Good evening, folks. This is Andy Pedraza with Special Effects Academy, and we're on the August 25th session of the Forex Trading Room, our start of the week for week beginning today. So let's get this show on the road. As usual, we're going to go through our standard agenda, look at the prior week, our currency strength meter for the past week and past month, calendar of our scheduled announcements for the week, and look at the major pairs on the daily charts, any setups we see in progress, and a few words in conclusion. This was a relatively flat week. We didn't get into much trades except towards the end of the week on Thursday, when we started to see some movement out of the pound pairs, and then Friday, the yen woke up with a vengeance as well, but we were already in some yen trades, so that has worked out in our favor from Friday onward, but we didn't enter anything new as a result. So let's take a look at our ledgers. The long-term ledger, not a whole lot of change. We opened one new trade shorting the EUROCAD. No trades were closed, and we're slightly down from where we were last week. We were at 2-point-something% growth. The downtick is actually as a result of the swap cost, the interest pretty much that is charged on open trades by the brokers. So no trades closed, and a slight downtick simply because of the cost of keeping these trades open. The intermediate term ledger, we did enter 3 trades on the pound when they started moving on Thursday. 2 of them did take us out at a loss of about 50 pips apiece, and 1 of them took us out at a profit of about the same. So between those 3 trades, we were net down. However, the euro-dollar trade that had been open for quite a while back did hit its trailing stop and took us out at a nice level of profit. So overall, we actually gained for the week. We're up by less than a percentage point, but we are up from where we were last week. And last but not least, the short-term account did not fare as well. We took the same 3 trades with the same results. So 2 losers, 1 winner. We're down a little bit under 2% for the week. But again, we have to take these risks. Otherwise, there is no opportunity to make profits. So this is the only account right now actually carrying a negative from the opening balance. And, well, it is what it is. We'll see what this week brings us. Notes and opportunities for improvement. As I said, another flat week, though we did have a bit of a wake up on Thursday on the pound, and as well on Friday out of the yen. And indeed, the long-term account was carrying a very significant negative for most of the week, at some point to the tune of collectively maybe 300 pips negative. Right now, we're back to break even, and we've actually got quite a number of open trades that are at profit right now, a couple of them in excess of 100 pips. The only significant loser we're carrying is the pound Canadian, which did do quite a steep retrace into pound strength on Thursday into Friday. I am expecting, unless something radically changes, for the pound to trickle back to where it was before, but of course, the market is going to do whatever it's going to do. I have a bias, but ultimately the market is in charge of what's going on. So we stayed out of the market for the most. We only took a few trades towards the end of the week when the pound started moving. Significant events, the Jackson Hole Symposium happened last week. That's a Fed symposium that happens periodically, and the G7 is currently meeting in Europe right now. So President Trump, Boris Johnson, and the other heads of state, Merkel, Macron, they are all in wherever they're holding it this time around and having their meetings. So that may have some sort of impact on the market as well, depending what press releases and communications come out. And of course, Boris, the EU and Brexit are still going back and forth. And indeed, that's what strengthened the pound to some degree on Thursday. I don't think it's going to be a lasting movement, but you never know. So we'll keep an eye on that. Relative strength meter for the last month and the past week, pretty much unchanged. We were at 11-something% for the month last week. No change there. We continue seeing the Aussie and the Kiwi as the clear losers in the currencies. The Canadian has also had a particularly bad month. The winners continue being the metals, silver and gold. And of course, we do have the yen regaining quite a bit of strength in the past 30 days. Moving on to the weekly, same thing, volatility unchanged at 2% and change. Aussie, Canadian, Kiwi, and dollar were the losers for the week. The pound actually gained, but again, this was all happening Thursday into Friday. So the pound came out as a winner for the week, but only towards the very end. And the rest of the currencies seem to be a little bit of a mixed bag. Yen strength, of course, I mentioned that. So, and the yen strength was all on Friday as well. So definitely towards the end of the week. The calendar for this week that's just beginning is pretty much non-existent. There is nothing there that I would be trading. So this is the first time in quite a while that I haven't had a single fundamental I would like to trade live, but there you have it. We don't have anything that I would expect to significantly move the market. And indeed, we're still looking at a very flat market. And while I haven't said I'm suspending trading altogether, I am being very careful as to what trades we open until the market starts trending or at least wakes up a little bit. And with that, we're going to go on to our look at the major pairs. We can see that most of the activity on this chart, the euro dollar, happened on Friday. The week was reasonably flat with the dollar maintaining the lead. And then on Friday, we see that reversal of fortunes with the euro dollar shooting up. That is what took us out of that intermediate trade we had shorting the euro dollar. The trailing stop had already kicked in. We got taken out at a nice level of profit, and hence why the intermediate term account is actually up right now from a week ago. But anyway, a flat week only punctuated by the activity on Friday and in some cases on Thursday. Pound dollar, we can see the same thing, except that the reaction really happened on Thursday. So we had a flat week. Then on Thursday, the pound gained a significant chunk of strength. And on Friday, it was very whippy. It went in both directions, but ultimately ended up slightly stronger than it had closed on Thursday. It's still a significant downtrend, and I'm still very bearish on the pound in general, but it is retracing right now, so that needs to be taken into account. My bias on pretty much all the pound pairs are that they will go back down to the level of support right beneath wherever they are right now, and indeed I am trading in that direction, and those were the trades that got opened on Thursday. I'll be looking for more entries cautiously, making sure I wait for the movement to begin before we jump in with both feet. USDJPY, we can see again a perfectly flat week following that level of resistance at the 106.75 until Friday. It just went into overdrive and went all the way back down to the bottommost level of support and even pierced it and stayed there. We've got open trades shorting the USDJPY and EUROJPY, if I'm not mistaken, on the long-term account. So these are greatly benefited from this movement. We'll have to see if it continues. USD Canadian, very flat, if a volatile week where it was just moving in all directions. It was hitting the uppermost level of resistance. And hitting also the rising trend line. So it isn't a wedge. I'd be very cautiously waiting for a breakout in either direction and start trading it. It has retraced significantly since that low it made sometime in June, July. Not a whole lot of reason why it would do that. We don't see that in other dollar pairs. Other than, well, the obvious being the pound, which has its own issues. The Canadian doesn't seem to have anything you can point out as a significant issue yet. It has been retracing. Again, I'm willing to trade it in either direction, but I needed to get out of that wedge. Moving on to our USD Swiss, also a very nice move on Friday, and it actually was a complete reversal. It had been trending up the entire week, even if slowly. Finally hit that level of resistance at the 98.50 on Friday, and then boom. Looks like there was a dollar collapse across the board, whether the Jackson Hole Symposium comments or the general climate between the trade wars between the U.S. and China, or the impending G7, or whatever it was. Something definitely spooked the market on the dollar on Friday, and we did reap the rewards. Most of them are in open trades, of course, except the euro dollar that got closed out. But we are looking very, very nice right now, as opposed to how we were looking at the beginning of the week. Again, most of the open trades are on the long-term accounts, so I'm really not concerned with what they do day to day or even week to week. But it is nice to see them trending in the direction we have our money placed. Aussie dollar, this one did not have any sort of breakout. It was flat the entire week and ended flat. So even though we had some dollar issues going on, you can't tell by looking at this chart. It's still trading right above support, and it just has refused to wake up for quite a while. Kiwi dollar, usually the Kiwi and the Australian are pretty much in lockstep. Not right now. We've been seeing the Kiwi dollar consistently dropping for the past 3 weeks. Well, it's been dropping since sometime in July, but it's picking up the pace, and or sometime in June. It's been picking up the pace. Obviously, it broke that rising trend line, and since then it really hasn't had much of a direction except down. We're waiting for that one to break the bottom level of support. It's above by a few pips right now. It came very close to taking us into a pending order in the middle of the week, but it retreated, and well, we're waiting for it to move, preferably down, since we already have a pending order. But in all these cases, I really don't care which way they move, so long as they do start breaking out, and we can trade it. Aussie Canadian hit the trend line, bounced off of it, and is now starting to head down again. You can see the Canadian going in different directions depending which currency we pair it against. So with the USD, the Canadian is going into weakness. With the Aussie CAD, it has been flat, but is now trending back into strength. So there is no consistency out of the Canadian right now, and that has to be taken into account. That being said, this chart is still decisively bearish, so it is heading down, and that would be the preferred direction for any trade. Euro Swiss, same thing, following a very nice trend line, and we've got open trades on the Euro Swiss on both the intermediate and the long-term account. The intermediate is pretty much at break even. We got into that one a little bit late in the game. The the long-term account, I'm sorry, is the one carrying 100+ pips of profit as we speak, and looking better every time as this continues dropping. I don't think it's found the floor yet. I'm being cautious with it, and I think the trailing stop already kicked in on that trade. So to some degree, it's protected, but I am looking for a big move out of the Euro Swiss at some point, simply given that the euro is getting weaker, and the Swiss, of course, is a safe haven whenever that happens. So this pair tends to do particularly well when we have situations like the one we're going through right now. Euro pound, a bit of a surprise there, but again, the euro has been weakening, but the pound, for some reason, found some strength. It has dropped back down to a prior level of support indicated by that rising trend line, the outer trend line. I am still pretty certain that at some point it's going to revisit the top, and we're going to be ready for that trade if and when it does happen, because now we're looking at about 400 pips of a potential there. But of course, we have to wait for some event to actually kick it off in that direction. But right now, it's sitting at very strong levels of support indicated by not just the trend line, but the Ichimoku cloud, which is right below it, and even a horizontal level of support. It ended the week almost precisely touching at the 90.65. So this is a chart that's giving us some very nice potential, but we have to wait for the move to actually start. EUROJPY also hugging a level of support until Friday. Again, the yen suddenly woke up on Friday and went into overdrive. I think we've got an open trade on the long-term account on the EURJPY, and that one was both of the yen trades were carrying profit when the market closed on Friday. And I think as the market opens right now, they're carrying profit as well. I just didn't check too closely, but everything was looking really good except the pound Canadian trade on that long-term account. Euro Canadian is pretty flat, so we can see it had a bottom all week, and then on Friday it went towards the top of that range. So again, we're seeing Canadian weakness in the oddest places for no good reason at all. It is traveling in the Ichimoku cloud, so it's between almost parallel levels of support resistance. And as with some of the other charts, I'm waiting for it to break out in either direction to give us a good opportunity for trades on any time frame. Pound JPY, another one that was going into pound strength for the bulk of the week, not moving too strongly, but still maintaining itself. On Thursday, it decisively went into pound strength. And then on Friday, yen strength kicked in, and it pretty much ended the week where it had begun. So we can call it a very flat chart. But it did have some very, very, I guess, high volatility movements on Thursday and Friday in both directions. And again, this is going to be typical of most of the pound pairs. While I would love to trade them, I want to be very, very cautious because they are moving in both directions. And sometimes they're moving by as much as 200 pips at a time in pick a direction. So coin toss it and take your pick. So not the most, well, not the best environment for trading. AUDUSD, same thing, very flat chart, and then on Friday, whatever happened, and the yen picked up strength, but it didn't break support. So that underlying level of support at 70.75 is still holding. In fact, it didn't even come close to it on Friday. So we're waiting to see what the new week brings us. Euro New Zealand, and we do have an open trade on the long-term account in the up direction. We're trading Euro New Zealand up in a long position, and it actually recovered quite nicely throughout the week. So we have been negative, and I think we either ended at a small profit or we're pretty close to break even. And of course, that trade is still open, so anything can happen. But it does look like it is resuming its upward direction. And this is probably the only euro pair where we see a significant movement into euro strength. Everything else seemed to be negative for the euro, but the Kiwi has been having even bigger issues, and they started quite a while back. So I'm still trading this one up, and we'll see how far it's going to go. Pound Canadian, and this is our bad boy of the bunch. We have an open trade on the long-term account. We're trying to trade the pound Canadian down for obvious reasons, and again, the CAD has been behaving very, very contrarian. It's and the pound, of course, was regaining strength last week towards the end, so we had that double whammy. It did seem to have stopped by Friday, and we're starting to head down again. I'm very interested to see how the week kicks off with the pound Canadian. I know we're still down about 300 pips on this trade. We'll see how far it continues going, or hopefully it'll turn around and give us some opportunity for gain. Not too concerned, because even with that open loss that we're carrying there, the account is actually at a small amount of profit right now. So the winning trades are compensating for this one big loser. And if this one turns around, then that account is going to go into a little bit of an overdrive in our favor. So we'll continue carrying that and see where it leads. And last but not least, we have the pound Swiss, which again, like all the pound pairs, has been moving into pound strength with a significant boost on Friday. but on Thursday, I'm sorry, and then on Friday, it retraced a little bit more than halfway back down. And indeed, this was the one winning pound trade that we took last week. We opened 3 positions looking for that retrace, and 2 of them gave us losses, but the pound Swiss was the one that gave us a nice win to compensate for that. So while we did take a little bit of a loss on the short-term account, it wasn't devastating because this one covered quite nicely. And that is the end of the charts. Looking at some of the opportunities I see as the week begins. Obviously, the pound, it's in a very volatile mood, and I mentioned 200 plus pip swings that it's doing. So it has to be traded carefully. Nonetheless, if we get some really good opportunities, hey, 200 pip swings can be made to work in our favor. So definitely the pound is a currency I'll be keeping an eye on. The Swiss pairs, for obvious reasons, the Swiss being our safe haven, one of the 2 safe haven currencies with the yen. It will continue to gain strength the more uncertainty we see in the market, and that has been playing out quite nicely. It had been stagnant for the past couple of weeks and even going in reverse in some cases. But on Friday, something kicked it off, and we're back in business with the Swiss franc. The Canadian pairs, as I've been mentioning, they're being contrarian in most cases, unless somebody knows more than I do, which I always admit is a strong possibility. I don't pretend to know everything, but I really haven't seen any clear reason in the economic news and in the calendars and anything that would tell me that the Canadian should be weakening. So it seems just to be doing its own thing for now, but still worth keeping an eye on because we are going to have at some point some good opportunities when the rest of the market starts saying what I'm saying. Hey, there's no reason for it to be weak, and it starts moving in the opposite direction. The yen pairs, same as the Swiss, it is a safe haven currency. So the more uncertainty, the more the yen pairs will move, as well as any positive news coming out of Japan, independent of it being a safe haven currency, are going to be moving the yen in either direction. And so far, it looks like strength is the name of the game. So the yen woke up on Friday. And it does bear watching closely as the week begins. We have those 2 open yen trades, which are now carrying profit. We want to see if we can take even more advantage on the other accounts as we trade the yen. And last but not least, our euro pairs. The euro continues to underperform, except maybe against the Kiwi and to some degree against the Canadian, but that's more the Canadian moving into weakness than the euro doing anything. So we'll continue carrying that euro New Zealand trade, as I mentioned, and cautiously see if we can find some more opportunities with the euro pairs. Some final words here: consolidation and fear. And of course, we have been in a sideways consolidating market for the entirety of last week. And that started the week before that. So it looks like the market is holding its breath right now, trying to figure out which way to jump. We actually made a small profit this week, as I pointed out, though for the most part, we did sit on the sidelines, and we only opened 3 trades the entire week. I think that's the least amount of trades I've opened in a week this fiscal year. But always remember that there is no requirement that you be in a trade. Sometimes, especially when the market's doing what it was doing this past couple of weeks, it's okay to be all cash. You don't have to have an open trade every single day. Look for the right opportunities, and if there are no opportunities, stay out of the market. It's always good to have cash there ready for the next swing. So never be in a hurry, especially during times of consolidation and uncertainty and fear. Same thing. As my sensei, I do martial arts on the side. As my sensei used to always say, never be in a rush to jump into your own grave. And by that, he meant that when you're in an actual confrontation, don't rush in to hit the other guy. Let the other guy be the one to commit and swing at you, and use that against him. Or her. We're equal opportunity martial artists here. So those are my parting words here. Any comments or questions from anybody would be welcome. Oh, and one other thing I'd like to point out, I am traveling. I'm actually in Boulder, Colorado right now, and I will be returning or flying back rather tomorrow evening, which does present a problem. I'm not going to be around for the 8 p.m. session. I'm probably going to be up in the air. I don't have the exact schedule. I'll have to work it out. So I will be sending an email. When I send the email out with the recording for this start of the week session, I'll send some sort of indication of what time we're going to be holding the evening session. But very likely it's not going to be at 8 p.m., but we will be having it at some point, and I will let you guys know later tonight. So that's going to be it for me for now. Any comments or questions from anyone? Okie dokie, then thank you very much. Safe trading as the week begins, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.